Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave and a happy Saturday morning to you on this lovely, lovely, lovely dark and early Saturday morning. But my God, we actually have a little bit of Bitcoin movement to start this morning off. So without further ado, let's get into the live scene right over here. Again, just reminding you that these morning streams are typically focused on more short-term price action in contrast with the long-term analysis playlist, which is focused on long-term analysis. Anyways, with this move this morning, we still have the same goddamn range that we've been living in for the last couple months, actually. I would just kind of draw it out because it's always important to draw out the biggest, most obvious parts first. Is we got something like this, a descending triangle within a greater descending triangle, but we might draw that later. Anyways, over here, you can see that even, yes, with this nice green dildo to kind of start your morning off, just kind of wick it up and testing the 21 exponential right over here, and also the top side of this resistance of the smaller descending triangle. Now, again, just because you're in this area right here does not mean that, you can't break it. Just because, resistance is there does not mean that you can't break it. It just means, you're coming up against resistance. So you actually probably have a trade to be made, just like you had over here. And for I don't know, what's it called? Clarity or transparency. Yes, transparency. I'm out of my short position as well. Exited around 6,400. So as price action kind of moves back around over here. So here's the next big area that I'm looking at. And again, I actually missed my reshort of this area at 6,430-ish area. I was trying to get a little bit cute with my offer right there, but I did want to short the retest of this trend line right here and also the 21 exponential. So far, it looks to be holding. However, lower time frames do look okay over here. It looks like it does want to kind of crawl up a little bit higher. Could even make a nice run for this 200 exponential, which I'm sure probably has some good confluence with. If we were to draw out this former support of the broadening wedge all the way from back over here, yeah, somewhere right over here, yeah, it would kind of have good confluence with this former support trend line, which should be resistance going forwards now. So yeah, I would have an eye on that if we were to break this area right here, again, about 6430-ish area, as there is theoretically, or not theoretically, there is quite literally a nice horizontal right here, that we did break down from a few days ago, and looks like we are basically just retesting that right here, right now. If this current 4-hour dildo closes above this 21 exponential, I might actually even take a little bit of a long on that. I typically don't like taking longs that close to resistance, but I really would like that setup, as that would be a nice break out of the smaller symmetrical triangle that we're looking at for the last day and a half or so. This guy right over here, and we'll just draw him over there. There you go. You got that guy right there. You got that guy right there. You can actually make a measure move off this. Now, on these lower time frame patterns, measure moves don't, they're not so trustworthy. Not that any measure move is like super trustworthy. I mean, a lot of the time you don't see them get hit. Some of the times you do, some of the times you don't. That's just technical analysis. It can go up or it can go down, but that would actually be pointing you all the way around here, right around about 6440-ish area. So if I was looking for a little bit of a scalp play right over there, maybe I do set up an offer right in this range, and it does kind of nicely arrange with this resistance trend line right here, and also the daily 21. So I like those two things for good confluence within this area. But for all intents and purposes, as long as you're closing the daily below the 21 exponential, this yellow line right here, which is right around about 6430-ish area, I want to be very, 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 very hesitant and keeping those plays just that, as scalps. Okay, so let's go down into the semi-lower time frame, see what we can mark off over here. So again, we got this guy right here. We have we could shove one in right over here as well. This horizontal right here, this is a whole thickness of range, so to say. But hey, what happens if you break out of the 6480-ish resistance? Because that is a possibility, of course. Well, the next big resistance I'd be looking at is, technically you would have one right here. I don't look at this as like strong resistance, but the next big one that I'd be eyeing is this guy right over here, about 6750. So that brings me to my next point. If you do break out of the 6480-ish range, I want to see like big volume, big green dildo just poking its head through there. Then yeah, I would take a long, and I'd be looking for in this range over here, and that would be pretty damn interesting, just because it's the first time that we've actually even broken out of this ascending triangle. Now, of course, there is still the bigger descending triangle to be aware of, kind of what we referenced to start this stream off. right over here. So still got to deal with that guy. But hey, one thing before the next. And like I said, as long as you're kind of within this overall descending triangle, I have to be bearish just because statistically speaking, it's the right thing to do. But that doesn't mean that it can't break out to the upside. Again, I've seen every fucking pattern break out every goddamn which way. It can happen. It can certainly happen, just less likely. There are a lot of other things also suggesting that you got a lot of shit to deal with along the way. So let's go over and kind of talk about that, because that was painting a little bit more of a rosy picture than it's probably good to do right now. But hey, on the 2-day, you still got a 2-day dildo death cross over here, the green and the purple. You're still living well below the 21 exponential over here, using it as resistance. And not only that, but you're actually closing dildos below the red 10 simple moving average over here. So you're below all major moving averages on a high time frame. Let's go to the 3-day. What does the 3-day say? Even worse over here. Now the 3-day says that you actually could pop back up and test this 6480 range pretty easily. But remember, 6480 is like the edge of the zone where I say, hey, as long as you're within there, I really want to be looking for more like shorts, maybe scalp shorts, but just shorts in general rather than longs. If you break above that area and you start really closing higher level dildos above that area, then it becomes a lot more interesting. But for right now, I like how all these charts are seeming to agree with each other. Overall, the weekly very, 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 very obvious as well, in my opinion. You have the yellow 21 exponential cross on the downside of the green 55. Again, only one other example of this even happening in Bitcoin's almost 10-year history right over here. And notice that after you got this cross, it took about, 1, 2, 3 weeks. Again, I don't think that you can analyze things historically one-to-one. I think that's very misleading when people do that. It's like that's why I fucking hate fractals. You never hear about fractals in any other thing besides crypto magic internet money. It's just weird. It's, again, I don't think that it's, I don't have too much faith in it, if you can't tell. But you did pop back up here and test the exponential, which I actually do have a lot of faith in. Exponentials and just moving averages in general are what can help kind of smooth out price action over time, because it gives us insight into what the bots and the algorithms are inputted to do. So what are the big boys thinking? Essentially the market movers, not the fucking retail investors, because somehow Reddit has this idea that it's like mom and pa and like everyone with $10,000 or maybe even like $100,000. It's like a drop in the fucking pond moves the markets. No, no, it's the market movers, my friends, the guys with actual big pockets, hundreds of millions. Anyways, below all major moving averages over here, still below the 10 simple. And you'll notice that this wick over here, whoa, hey, what was that? Testing the 21 exponential. If you were to end down this way over here, I would look at that as a rejection of the 21 exponential, just like we had in 2014 as well. And if we close below the 10 simple moving average, that would just look, even more ugly to me. As far as the weekly goes, there's really not too much to be excited about until you really start getting back above 7,400. But that would be something worth getting excited about if you could actually make a higher high for the first time in the last almost year now. I would be I'd definitely be taking longs off that. Above 8,000, I'm taking some heavy longs, and above 10,000, I'm gonna be all in pretty much. Anyways, okay, back on over here to our chartable chart, our lovely chartable chart. Let's go down to a lower time frame over here. So yeah, we have the measure move off that, but do we get there or not? Again, I'm not taking a long right here. There's so much resistance in the way. That's what really fucks around with these measure moves and can throw a lot of people off. So I'm just gonna kind of sit back and wait. I don't really like taking trades over the weekend, just because weekend action is weekend action. It's just it's very strange sometimes, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. But overall, just kind of looking at this guy over here and keeping an eye on him. We do see increasing volume as you do break this area over here, so I do like that. But again, remember, a lot of the times you'll see things fail, and then what happens, if you were to kind of fail over here, well, then you create a bear flag, right? So again, patterns are just that. They kind of give you insight into that specific moment, but it doesn't give you any sort of guarantees. It just gives you like a likelihood, right? Okay, so let's go check out Tether. Tether actually dipping down right now, so perhaps that is the impetus for this rally right now. Still well below parity. Parity being about, I consider that within about 4 decimal places of $1, which typically does hold. But over the last 2 to 3 weeks now, it has been progressively getting worse and worse. First, spending about a week below 99 cents. Then later, earlier this week, getting all the way down to 85 cents, and now rallying all the way back up to a little bit over 97 cents. So it's floating around. So, you could almost even say that it's more worth it to watch Tether over here, just because Tether kind of seems to dictate the moves of the market. When Tether drops, Bitcoin pumps. When Tether pumps up, Bitcoin actually doesn't really go down that much. It's definitely an it's not necessarily like fully 100% related, because there does seem to be a more of a response to an up move, a down move in tether with an up move correlating in the spot underline, in contrast with the opposite, to say that. So that is interesting. And again, a lot of people are wondering why, Bitcoin's even pumping up when you do see this sort of thing. That's because there's an arbitrage opportunity, and so all the arbitrage bots start going crazy, and maybe some of them aren't that sophisticated, so they start looking at the US dollar exchange and saying, oh shit, we can do this for $200, or maybe that maybe there is some sort of workaround, because there's so many ways to fucking do it, man. So by that sort of mechanism, it drives all the prices up. Anyways, the Finex wallet for Bitcoin is still steadily losing Bitcoins over here at around 129,000 Bitcoins. Compare that with about 4 weeks ago now, that was all the way up to about 230,000 Bitcoins. So literally 100,000 Bitcoins fleeing that wallet as you do head face first into this area over here. Again, I want to point out the red line chart over here, just losing the value like crazy, which looks eerily similar to our spot underlying chart. But again, I look at this and it's like, can I really I want to chart it just because, I have like some sort of an autistic brain probably, but when it comes down to it, like, is this really relevant? This is just one exchange when it comes down to it. So all we can say from that is that, hey, we know that Tether essentially, face planted all the way into 85 cents. Then we saw Bitcoins flee out of good old Finex over here. So likely people not selling, but trading their Tether for Bitcoins and then transferring their Bitcoins out of Finex, perhaps to do with some sort of, if we're going to create a story around it, perhaps they're thinking, well, I don't know about all this Bitfinex guy. What the fuck's he on about? So maybe they're just getting cold feet from that. We also do have some interesting stuff to talk about with the longs and the shorts of it all over here. Longs have jumped off a cliff. In fact, you'd think that longs would be hodling positions, or at least adding when you have a nice big green dildo to start Monday off for about $1,500 on Finex. But it looks like they either took profit or they just used that opportunity to get out of their tether positions, out of Finex, essentially, by getting out of their longs first and then getting out of Finex. We're about 49 coins away from dropping below 20,000. This would be the first time dropping below 20,000 longs since all the way over here in January, actually. All the way in January. So again, very, 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 very strange behavior. Again, I don't really have like a story to kind of come up with it just yet. And that's my point about it, is that you can only just make up a story. This is what the data says. We see Bitcoins fleeing Finex. We see longs jumping off the cliff. We see Tether going down and then kind of rallying back up. Going over the shorts over here. Shorts are certainly very, 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 very high on Finex, around 33.3 thousand open shorts, which is above this horizontal line right here, which is kind of where where it gets on my radar, saying like, hey, this is pretty fucking high. This is pretty fucking high. So again, at the end of the day, I do want to keep an eye on this, just because these are squeezable, although they're not necessarily, none of these guys are necessarily in pain right now. The guys who are in pain already got liquidated on Monday. We liquidated about 10,000 shorts on this red dildo right here, just absolutely insane. And then over the next 3 days, about 6,000 new shorts opened up, although again, they were in profit, and it looks like they're kind of letting go right now. So again, things to be aware of over here as price action does kind of float around. Mr. Beaterall, this is Mr. Beaterall on BitMexico, and Mr. Beaterall is, whoops, let's just kind of get rid of this. Sorry, it's a little bit of an ugly chart. Typically speaking, I do keep these charts to myself on Mr. Beaterall. I'll show the Finex chart, but I guess it's maybe more appropriate to show this one. But Mr. Beaterall is just actually a beautiful, this is art right here. You put in a rising wedge, bear flag, drop it, bear flag. Basically this is a rising channel, then bear flag right here if you want to get super technical. And if you were to confirm below the support of this guy right here, which would now be around 199, yeah, if you can close a 4-hour dildo below 199, then you would have a measure move pointing you all the way down here towards 163, which actually would make new lows for this guy. But for right here, right now, kind of rallied around with the rest of the market, did wake up and test this resistance right here at about 206. This horizontal guy right here. So again, the big levels matter, but during the weekends, we'll see some flighty price action, but at the end of the day, typically things just go sideways. Although, like I said, I would be interested in kind of taking along it, maybe like a scalp long if we came back down to about 202 area. I could be interested in that. So yeah. Okay, what else we have to talk about? Let's go check out GBTC over here because GBTC did close the day slightly up, but again, it's slightly up, but this looks weak to me. You kind of feel the, you close last Friday, I believe it was, gap down. Then you island gap up, fill this gap over here, put in a rejection dildo and get rejected by the 21, and then back down, and now you're filling this gap over here. So kind of funny price action as both teams go back and forwards with each other. But again, the range, I think the range is pretty damn clear, especially on the daily. As long as you're closing daily dildos, especially below $7.32 and above $6.81, I don't think that there's too much to be done. If you lose $6.81, that's the time to really start panicking, or maybe not panicking if you have some sort of if you listen to streams like this and you have some sort of perspective on the market. That sounds arrogant as fuck. I apologize about that. But by the same token, if you do start closing dildos back above this area right here, it becomes a little bit more interesting. But again, I can't get too interested in this thing until you start getting back above about actually $8.16. That would make me more confident in the overall broad market. Let's go check out SPY. Speaking of broad market, closing the day down, and it does seem to me that that traditional markets, this is legacy markets over here, the main index for the legacy markets. Does seem to have some correlation with Bitcoin markets, as it looks like both are kind of risk assets, whereas gold is kind of like a risk off asset, or I don't know how they say it, but yeah, I think you understand what I'm trying to say. Anyways, closing the day on the 200 exponential on the daily right here, not good at all. And in fact, I read this as a full rejection of the 10 simple moving average over here, and also getting rejected from this horizontal level right over here. And I love that I absolutely love that for good confluence. I mean, especially after getting a reversal dildo right here in the formation of a, do you want to call this a hangman? I don't care what you call it, but a reversal dildo nonetheless, and playing out to the downside nonetheless, as well as volume increases to the downside. Now, of course, the big level has not been broken necessarily just yet. 276. I need to see a dildo both open and close below it, and we have not gotten that. Let me see. Sorry, just yeah, we have not gotten that. At all. We have not gotten that at all, actually. You didn't even get one over here, even though you're kind of playing around with it. So again, in legacy markets, it's very important to wait for an actual open and close below it, or above it, to kind of confirm a change in overall macro. And you can see right here, we just don't have that right now. But hey, it looks weak. It looks very, very weak, and pressure is certainly on. So if it is going to happen, likely happens next week. Weekly close pretty bad as well. Weekly is a clear rejection of the 21 exponential over here, taking everything off and just looking at this, which is actually my preferred way of doing it. But a clear rejection of the 21 exponential and then closing below the 30 simple. Really don't like that as well. Overall bad. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, but Krown, it's an inverted hammer. No, it's not. No, it's not. This is a rejection of a major exponential. And again, this last horizontal right here at about 274, kind of holding it up. But the second that you lose that, you got a big red dildo problem. So yes, and again, I think it's gonna be a very humbling experience for a lot of Bitcoiners who arrogantly think that if traditional markets fail, that it's good for them, and they just kind of cheer on the death of all basically everyone's money, essentially. Although I have no money in the stock market, to be honest with you, absolutely none. But hey, it looks to me like Bitcoin's actually a little bit more positively correlated with it than not. You'd say that that's not true right now when Bitcoin rallies up over here. But remember, as of yesterday's dildo close, this is all the information that you had. Weekend markets kind of matter a little bit less to me. You'll notice that we got stopped out right here so far. So to me, that's more of like it's just a range so far. Yes, you did break this symmetrical triangle to the upside, but again, I need to see one of the bigger levels being broken for me to be a little bit more of a believer either which way. Again, I probably should put a horizontal right here as well. I mean, do you really need to put one right here? It's like kind of at the same area. So I like the two conversion guys right over there. Let's go over the stochastics and RSI and see if we can find anything. RSI looks good on this move so far, but I would be looking for the hourly to create some divergence if we are going to get rejected. 2 hour needs to fight the 200 exponential right there. So we'll have to kind of monitor that one. If it does pop back down to 63.95, though, I wouldn't hate that for a small scalp to the upside. 3 hours, same sort of thing, actually. Same sort of thing. All the exponentials are kind of in the same area, too. 3 hour stochastics pointing up, so I do like that. There's a big signal. Always that one's just like the cheat code. 4 hour over here just getting started as well, so I like that. So what is this telling me? It's telling me that you actually could have the power to break this area. It wouldn't take too much over here. What about 6 hour? 6 hour just getting started as well. So yeah, again, another thing agreeing with each other. 8 hour over here, 8 hour still pointed down, but losing a little bit of momentum, but still pointed down. We got 9 hour over here, still pointed down, as you'd imagine. It's just 1 hour less, 1 hour more. Sorry, and 10 hour, 12 hour. 12 hour still going. 12 hour does make me very apprehensive here. Daily still going to the upside. So pretty much in the more immediate time frames, it does look like Bitcoin wants to rally up. Maybe like another day or two, and then we'll figure it out. But the higher time frame is still pretty deadly. We did just tick in a new 2-day dildo over here. This is the 2-day dildo stochastics, and they're actually gaining momentum to the downside. I really don't like that. 3-day did cross the upside yesterday when it closed, but this is one of those kind of like, it's one of those weak ones that you get over that you saw over here, or even over here for a second, or that it hinted at, and weekly still down as well. So again, a lot of things to be aware of in this area, because it's an area for maximum package, but there's going to be a shit ton of opportunity for anyone who's a little bit patient here. What about weekly RSI? RSI is still being harassed by this exponential right here, so I'd look for that to be resistance. If you can actually close this next weekly above it, that would actually make me want to take a long, and would make me actually pretty excited. But we're still in the bearish zone essentially. We're technically like a tick out of it, but I think we're going to find some resistance here, to be honest with you. So again, that's what I'd be looking for over there. Overall, most lower time frame showing bullish, higher time frame still showing bearish. So short term direction probably a little bit up. It was certainly not out of the question to take a formal stab at around 64.70, 64.80, something like that. But higher time frames are still pretty deadly in a way, to be honest with you. We have 4 hour, what are 4 hour RSI over here? 4 hours RSI is going to try to get started over here as well. So that actually looks good. So again, yeah, lower time frames do want to rally up. I would not rule out a formal test of this area right here, 64.70ish area. At that point, I probably will take a short around this area, and look for like a double top-ish formation between this point over here and this point over here, as we did kind of really struggle around this area over the last time. A lot of bearish divergence on the RSI over here. I want to quickly look at the market cap over here. Again, a very lenient way of looking at things and analyzing things. Still not breaking out, even with this nice green dildo that we had to start off the morning. But it's getting it's hinting. RSI still floating around the neutral to bearish zone. Stochastics still neutral-ish, but are hinting at across the upside, so that would be a little bit more positive. But overall, the only reason why I even pay attention to this is not because I think it's really reliable or anything like that. I just think that it's a very lenient way of looking at things. And so if this one were to break out, then that would kind of put it on my radar that a breakout could happen potentially. On Bitcoin itself, the spot exchanges, I'd say, hey, as long as this thing's below it, it's like this would be like the easiest one to get above it, because it's including every fucking shitcoin within its calculation. Again, the market cap is literally just the circulating supply multiplied by the last price. So is it really representative of the overall liquidity in this market? No, not really. It's just like a very crude calculation. But hey, if this one to break, as long as this one's kind of under it, I don't really see any reason to be like, overall market cycle is shifting or change or anything like that. Over here to the MVT signal as well makes me apprehensive, as it's still above where my cursor currently is, which is considered the critical zone, which is called every top in Bitcoin's history. And typically after that, it goes for like a nosedive into this area right over here, right around the 50 mark. So again, just another thing to be aware of. As we do kind of chug along. But I know a lot of people are getting very, 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 very bullish right here, and it could be, but I need to see confirmation on some higher levels first. At the very least, I need to see 64.80 taken out with force, at the very least. And really, I really want to see this descending triangle, the top of the big descending triangle right around 6900-ish area, and then make a higher high over 7400. That would make me a believer overall. A believer overall. That would make me really interested in taking some damn big long positions, but above 10,000 is like my full on, hey, I think we've seen the lows type scenario. So again, that's going to do it for this morning. Hope this stream finds you well. Let me just make sure that I covered everything that I wanted to talk about over here. Okay, yes. Yeah, that all looks good to me. Or let's go over a little bit more in depth on Mr. Buterol on Finex just for one last second. Yeah, so as long as Mr. Buterol is below in closing, like higher level dildos below about 219, I don't want anything to do with it. This could just be a broadening wedge over here. You're going to notice that the 200 exponential is starting to kind of come down and meet price action most likely pretty damn soon. But overall, still got the same bottom support that we saw on BitMexico charts. Right around here, right around 206 would be it on Finex. So as long as you're above there, you're kind of safe-ish. But again, I can't get too excited about this thing until you really start popping back above this area right here. And we'll just call it like 220 actually. If that were to happen, yes, there is resistance along the way, but maybe you do get to actually take a formal test out of this area over here around 250 if that were to happen. So again, that'd probably align with the Bitcoin move to like, 6,900, I'd imagine, something like that. So again, keep your eyes on the bigger picture because it is rapid, it can rapidly change right here. But for now, nothing macro has changed. Again, shorter time frames showing a little bit of up, higher time frames still showing heavy pressure down and pretty damning pressure down, to be honest with you. And just one last thing on the daily look on the 10 simple and the yellow 21 exponential right over here. They're still gaining momentum away from each other. And if you do get rejected again from this 21 exponential on the daily, that ain't gonna look too damn good. So again, guys, that's gonna do it for this morning stream. Again, to wrap it up in a few sentences, we actually didn't even really talk about the downside over here. Again, 6150 is my big area to be aware of for downside. As long as you're above 6150, I really don't want to discuss like super big downside targets like 4,000, 3,000, 5,000, that kind of shit. Although it's certainly very, 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 very possible. But as long as you're above 6150, you might get caught with a green dildo up your asshole like Tone Vase. Okay, so if you were to break back down below this area right here, 6380-ish area, I don't see much stopping from about 6300. However, that's not really strong support. I really be looking a little bit more towards 6250-ish area. And again, while 6150 is support, if you did get all the way back down here to 6150, that would look extremely bad in my opinion, extremely bad. And again, to wrap it up for the upside, hey, you got resistance right here to right around 6430-ish area. If you can break above there, don't see much stopping from about the 6460 to 6480. But 6480 is the next big area to be aware of. If you can get above 6480, don't see much stopping from about 6650, and really 6750 is the area that I'd be having my eyes on. So again, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you on this lovely, lovely, lovely Saturday. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you in a live stream near you soon. Take care.